Hello, everybody. Welcome to this March 17th, 2022 meeting of the Somerville Urban Forestry Committee. Pursuant to the various emergency acts that have been passed over the past 2 years, we'll be holding this meeting by remote participation, and audio and video recording will be made available on the city's website as soon as practicable. So we have I am not able to see. I see no members of the public in attendance. So we're just talking to ourselves for the moment here. First off, let us do, for the record, some quick introductions. I'll go first, and then as we always do, I'll go alphabetically by first name. As a heads up, Rick, you're going to be second. I'm Chris Dwan. I'm a local activist. I'm passionate about transparency, accountability, and our urban canopy. I'm also one of the co-chairs of the committee. Breck Miller, if you could introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Breck Miller. I am the city's tree warden.
Fantastic. Pleasure to have you here. And next up is Jennifer Conrad. Or Clifford. Sorry, Jennifer Clifford.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, I'm Jennifer Clifford, a resident of Somerville, member of the Urban Forestry Committee. I have a background in plant pathology. I'm interested in plant health and helping Somerville have a wonderful, sustainable urban canopy. Thank you.
Excellent. Next up is Leah Grossman.
Hi, everyone. My name is Leah Grossman. I'm a landscape architect in Boston, and I'm excited about diversifying and maintaining our urban canopy in Somerville.
Very cool. Proceeding on to Dr. Vanessa Bukili.
Thank you. Vanessa Bukili, Senior Urban Forestry and Landscape Planner for the city. Interested in all things trees and shrubs. And we missed Amy, I think, at the top.
We did. I didn't count backwards very well. Also, I'm being kind of random about using the honorifics for your titles. If anybody has a strong preference either way, please just tell me what you prefer and correct me until I remember. It's not a thing that I am good at habitually, but names and titles are very important. So I will do my best, and just remind me when I miss. So Amy Myrtle.
No problem. Hi, I'm Amy Myrtle. I am a urban insect ecologist, something like that. And I'm interested in looking at how urban tree canopy and green space in general can support healthy insect communities, and then all the species that rely on healthy insect communities. Thank you.
All right, and I see that Tori Antonino has joined us as an attendee. I am attempting to make you a panelist, Tori.
She shows up as a panelist for me.
Is she? Okay, here we are. Maybe, possibly. Hello. So welcome, Tori Antonino. We were just going through introductions, and you are alphabetically up.
Hi, my name is Tori Antonino. I'm an ecological landscaper here in Somerville, and I work to use our urban spaces to regenerate the ecosystem and get our landscapes living and singing again, sort of to help reconnect us with nature. And thank you.
All right, and I see we are gaining attendees by the minute here. I see Crystal has joined us. Crystal, we are at the point in our meeting where we always do introductions. You are welcome, but not obligated at all to introduce yourself if you would like. I'm going to unmute you in case you would like to introduce yourself and let us know what brings us to our committee.
Hi, this is Crystal. I'm about to be in transit. I'm really sorry. I'm here mostly to listen and say hi, and I might have more helpful things in a couple of minutes.
All right. Would it be wise? Go ahead.
Excuse me, Chris. Can I please get Crystal's last name for the minutes?
It's listed as H here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I am completely comfortable with people going with a first name and a last initial. I think.
Yep.
We ought to be able to attend public meetings without.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. I see Malik is joining us as well. So Malik is going to be a presenter.
I just moved him.
Crystal, I'm going to leave you off mute. If we start getting a bunch of background noise from transit, I'll put you on mute. Just feel free to put your hand up and I'll take you right back off mute if you want to participate. But I'm going to leave you live for the moment. So Malik, since you are here, if you're connected to audio, would you be willing to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Malik Drayton, the Urban Forestry and Landscape Planner. I've been with the City of Somerville for 3 years. I have a background of natural resource conservation and forestry. There we go.
All right, thank you so much. I think that's it for introductions, unless we've gained anybody else. So next up is housekeeping. I blanked on who is taking notes tonight. Is that you, Amy? That's Jennifer. Okay, good. And is there any other housekeeping? Actually, I have a housekeeping item. Vanessa, I saw that the city council returned to in-person. Does that mean that we are at risk of returning to in-person anytime soon?
I don't have a good answer for you yet. We haven't been directed to do that. There is some possibility we will at some point. What I was told is meetings will continue to be hybrid even once we return in person to allow people to join from wherever they are. But I think it's going to be at least a little ways away till we can figure out all the systems and get trained on it, but it's possible.
All right, I believe that the committee has previously expressed our informal opinion that we like being able to log in from home. I understand that we don't make the rules, but I certainly like the ability to skip straight from a video meeting for work to a video meeting for my civic activism. All right, any other housekeeping?
Yeah, I do. Well, I was hoping we could do that thing where we promote our people attendees to panelists so we can have a more transparent meeting.
Sure.
See some folks in the room, and I can't even see who's here besides ourselves. I don't see any audience members. Maybe we don't have any, but.
So we have one audience member. Actually, Tori, you still appear to be logged in. Like we didn't successfully make you a panelist, so I'm going to try to do that again. And that should give you the limited visibility that we have. And then I don't have the ability to make Crystal be a panelist. That is not, I can.
I'll do it.
Okay.
Crystal, you'll still be self-muted, so you'll just be able to see more stuff potentially.
Cool. Yeah.
Thanks.
And just to acknowledge,
I can't either, sorry. I think probably because she's logged in with a number or something, so.
And just to acknowledge, we have these varying levels of technology maturity for our various city organizations, and we are not one of the ones that has gone full tech stack yet. But yeah, I'm all in favor of people being able to see each other, audience members being able to know who else is here, and as long as we can keep the meeting broadly on the rails, I'm open to being able to see each other. But it's a technical gap, Tori, that we can't make you a panelist, so that's why you have limited visibility, and I have literally no idea why I can't promote Crystal, but that is also the case. So one more point to go to webinar. All right, any other housekeeping? All right, let us move to resident concerns. Mine got promoted to an agenda item. Are there any resident concerns that anybody at all wants to bring forward? Quiet night in Somerville. Yes, sorry.
If there are any residents who want to speak, I'd rather hear them first, but I just have, if not, I have something.
Like I said, we have one person who's not on the committee in attendance. It is Chris,
Okay,
and she is self-muted. And I will let you know if that changes.
okay, so we've had the conversation in here around, talked a little bit about community gardens and what that looks like in Somerville, and how that might change, and what to do about people on the wait list, and ownership models versus more communal models. So the Conservation Commission has begun a subcommittee. And currently, right now, it's just conservation commissioners themselves, but a subcommittee to address community gardening. And I'm really excited about it. They're doing it right now in the public realm. So I think I'm really excited that we might be able to get some people off the wait list, to organize the wait list, to get to perhaps offer different models of gardening. So I'm just attending those meetings and being a voice. You guys know me, I've been a voice of, I really want to see us offering more farming type models for community gardening rather than just the privatized plots. So that's sort of been my bent. And but there was a lot of voices at the meeting, and I'm feeling pretty confident that this is gonna be a successful process. That, again, for me, my goal is, if there's anyone who wants to do gardening in Somerville, there should be some way that they can get involved. That's, again, not just being 5 years on a wait list. So I don't know, I'm really excited about the committee, and think good work is going to be done, and I'll report. If anyone wants to attend the meetings, let me know. And yeah, and Malik is Malik, I don't know if I think you're a commissioner, or you're, anyway, he was there as well. So that's all I got. Anyway, thanks, guys.
All right, I have a quick question on that. Is that the same effort or a different effort with the thing that I'm seeing from the city, where there is a survey out about the usage of the community gardens?
Wow, I've been trying to get my hands on that survey. I think it's part of the process. Yeah, where did you get the survey? Was it just sent to you?
I have a plot at the, well, I use a plot. I do not have this plot, but I have the privilege of having getting to use a small plot at the Durrell Community Garden, and our garden organizer forwarded it to me.
I think so. I think that happened at maybe the last Conservation Commission. I think so. I think that's part of the process.
And I noticed also that the city is recruiting for a new coordinator of the community garden program, which has an extraordinarily small honorarium for being in that position. So it seems like this has attention. I'm glad we're paying attention to it.
Yeah. Chris, will you share your survey with me?
I will dig it up and forward it to the committee members.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Yeah, more money for that position came up as well. This is going to be a heavy lift if there's 600 people on the wait list, and a lot of emails to be written and connections to be made. So hopefully more money we can get more money for that position.
All right. Any other concerns from anybody? Okay, I will share that I inadvertently misgendered Crystal. They prefer they them pronouns. So just to acknowledge that, and I will do better going forward. First item on our agenda the next item on the agenda is Arbor Day planning. So I don't know who's running that, but you're up.
I put that on there because we start thinking about Arbor Day. National or Massachusetts Arbor Day is the last Friday of April. We have not traditionally done our Arbor Day that day. I feel like it's hard to do like a tree planting that day. So we don't have to stick with that date at all, but it would be good to start thinking about what we want to do. I mean, we have, at least the last few years, I believe UFC has been a big leader of Arbor Day, so I wanted to give you that opportunity again. If people are not interested, we'll take the helm, you know what I mean. So anyone have any thoughts or ideas or timing thoughts?
Go ahead, Jennifer.
I do. Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Vanessa. Yeah, last year I think we had that really great tabling event up at Prospect Park, but we were able to coordinate that with the planting of the white oak, which was good. So is there anything like that that is going to be, will there be a planting of something at some park or some place where we can gather a few people and actually have a table, maybe answer some questions, hand out some materials? Is there any way we can coordinate with some planting that way? And if so, we could maybe have the date then. Otherwise, this also kind of is the timing of the adopt-a-tree effort, you know, which is a big effort. I think this is also going to be pretty tightly coordinated with that. So end of April could be a good time to have it, maybe that Saturday or Sunday, when we'll be wrapping up with tagging the adopt-a-tree tag, so we can talk about that program as well. So I'm in favor of having it at the end of April if we can, or would be in favor of having it coordinate with a planting of a tree in a park or some other public space that way too.
Love those ideas. For planting, we probably will be planting in parks, but I don't have really the locations all set up yet. We did have to remove some trees in Nathan Tuff, so that's the first like park that comes to mind that we'll probably be putting some trees in there. And that could also be good to showcase our PTHP Parks Tree Health program, which was primarily there this year. So we could like show what's been done. I don't know what the timing would be. We're still getting contracting set up for spring planting, so definitely won't be in April. Could be sometime in May or even up to mid-June. So that would be like planning down the line. But I'm happy to have it be something different this year and coordinate more with the adopt-a-tree program. Maybe that would be a good way to promote it. The other thing that comes to mind for planting is the pilot program that we're discussing with their street tree plantings, but with the planting subcommittee, there will probably be 4 to 6 trees going in somewhere, and there will be some planting efforts associated with that. So that's another option. But we could also have like 2 kind of events, like have an Arbor Day event on normal Massachusetts Arbor Day, and then sort of a smaller group for another planting event, perhaps.
Yeah, can never have too many outreach events.
I would
all
say
those people coming out.
if we, I would just say I absolutely loved coupling it with commissioning a new tree in a park. That was awesome. And if we feel like we have sufficient energy to do 2 events this year, that sounds incredible. I know we were all a little drained last year. And just as a reminder, we get to, I think the mayor gets to declare Arbor Day, but we recommend, and so we can put it any date we want. The only requirement is that we have one.
I like the idea of doing it with the Tufts planting personally, because that's a really nice park to showcase, you know, it has such a nice showcase of a Somerville, a very tree-full Somerville park that we don't have a lot of.
I agree, and it also would spread it out a little bit across the city. If we had it at Prospect Hill last year, we could have it at Nathan Park this year, and you know, maybe we could try to spread it around a little bit year to year as well. And the thing about the, you know, I kind of half joking about the outreach events, because they do take a lot of time, and it can be a little tiring, you know, and if we have several, it's a lot of effort for PSUF and for DPW bringing the equipment, but you know, and also for our own group. So we might want to carefully consider how many we have. But I like the idea of Tufts Park, but then, you know, folding in some outreach, and we can talk about this later with the working group, but with these tree pilot program, I think is also a really nice opportunity that we can take to reach out to the public in a different way. So I would like to consider that at least.
Okay. So this was just basically a heads up and a start the conversation. Do we need to do anything?
It's March, so if we were to do the April date, we'd have to start planning, but it sounds like we're leaning towards not doing that. So I think we can sort of put it on the back burner, and I will keep that in mind when thinking about the planting schedule to try to get the park earlier on in the season, perhaps. And if it works out timing wise, and we can plant the trees in the park before the pilot trees get planted, not sure this is going to work, but then we could like have a date and just like tell people they can show up if they want to help out, and sort of have less promotion, but like the ability for people to join if they're interested. If that makes sense.
And just to mention, I thought it was really cool that it had a poem last year. So, and it doesn't have to be a poem, but I like the idea of bringing a little art at the same time that we get out there.
And you read it so well, Chris. You could be the MC.
I tried to roll with it. All right.
Okay.
We're good on Arbor Day?
Yep, thank you.
All right. Next up is Parks and Bioswales Maintenance at Prospect Hill Park. Is this,
Hi, yeah.
All right.
So this was me. I kind of put in a few items together. So, well, the bioswales maintenance would be in Union Square, and I was wondering, you know, who that contractor is. Are they adopted? Is it under the purview of the DPW? And also, you know, the same with Prospect Hill Park. It's I just wanted to understand who's taking care of it right now. There's definitely some, you know, we mentioned at a previous meeting, just the amount of invasives there, you know, is overwhelming, especially for a young park, and sort of trying to get the meadow area fixed is not the right word, but getting it improved, and just wondering whose purview it was, and then to follow up, like, how do we help?
So I got some answers for you. So these are both relatively quite recently completed projects. So the Prospect Hill Park was designed by PSUF folks, and it was only finalized, I don't remember when now. But anyways, it's still under establishment contract with the contractors, so they are on it. They are already thinking about it, and will start doing some work, you know, now that spring is coming, sometime early spring, I believe. So they are coming. They know they're going to be doing some reseeding in the meadow, I believe. So it's on their radar already. For Somerville Avenue, that project is under a 2-year warranty and establishment period. as part of that contract that is run through the engineering department, or capital projects. Now they're combined, I always forget whose project is who. I think that warranty and establishment contract lasts through fall 2023, so we still have 2 good seasons that it's being maintained directly. And it's still in discussion what we will do after that, but likely DPW.
Okay,
As far as what you can do to help, I think nothing, because they're under warranty and contract. So we're
well. So you know, I don't know if I meet with Louisa, but I just, you know, people. Let's say it's under contract, Prospect Hill. I want to make sure these contractors know what the situation is and the amount of invasive plants, because they didn't touch any of the invasive plants before. So if there's a contractor who's redoing completely redoing a park but doesn't touch, I mean, thousands of plants, and so I'm just really I'm having some healthy skepticism. So I mean, do I contact Louisa? Can I go say hi to the contractors? And hi, Crystal. It's just, I mean, it's wonderful that there are contractors on it, but the breadth of information and knowledge of contractors varies greatly. Like, so I don't. So my goal would be.
Just to clarify, their job is to maintain the things that they installed. So if removing invasives and making sure the park had no invasives in it was not part of their original contract, which it wasn't, then that's not something that they would be doing. They are required to maintain the plants in a healthy condition that they installed, you know, or fix the meadow to the specs that they were given for the initial contract.
So I'm wondering if that means the hillside, there's an opportunity for it to come under care of the neighbors or something like that.
Do you mean, I mean,
it's
woodland, sort of the woodland area?
Woodland, yeah, sort of. All the motherwort, the garlic mustard, the multiflora rose, the bittersweet, you know, all that kind of.
But like back behind the houses, it's not really.
No, they're not behind the houses, underneath the locusts on the hillside, the area that Andrew Kopash used to maintain so lovingly.
Yeah, that's what I'm calling the woodland area. I think we're talking about the same place.
Oh, okay.
But, there's not real paths in that area, that sort of area. Anyways, yeah, there was very limited work that was done there as part of the contract. Just removing hazardous trees and planting some whips, as far as I recall. So, as far as, you know, having a friends group or something take care of it, that's definitely beyond my knowledge, and I think that's something you'd have to reach out to Louisa about or coordinate with her.
So in the general case of that, let's say hypothetically that we do a little legwork and we get a group of people who come to PSUF and say, we want to go out there on the regular and rip up invasives. Is there any kind of an existing process by which a group could get permission to do that? I mean, we've talked about the idea of adopting spots where people would plant natives and having a little sign that indicates, please don't mow this. Could this be under kind of the same umbrella that we describe what we're going to do and we agree, yeah, okay, within that, that's cool?
That seems perfectly reasonable. I don't know of any existing program, but it does seem very similar to that one that you were mentioning, Chris, which we also haven't actually had any applications for areas or anything, but that's the general thing. general idea behind what was laid out for getting approval, that, you know, you come to basically PSEF's the start of the process, you know, delineating what you'd like to do and who would be involved, and then other folks from the city would need to sign off as well, like DPW, and then probably having signage there would be also useful. So I think that's a good way to start.
So the net is the park is still under contract with the original installers. The original installers were not contracted to destroy all invasives, so they're not doing this thing that they didn't sign up to do. We have potentially some community interest in doing that, and that would flow through PSUF through an informal but real process where we describe what we're going to do and get sign off from all the appropriate folks, and then potentially put up some signage. All right, sounds like we've got the green light, Tori, to describe what we want to do and then get some people to do it.
Okay, that sounds like the process. And thanks for the reminder, and thanks for Vanessa for doing that work to get that information.
Excellent. I think the next agenda item is also one of yours, Tori. This is greening cement strips in Union Square.
Yes, so I've had some community members ask me about this one specific, strip that separates the bike lane from as Somerville Ave turns into Bow Street, in front of kind of like from where the Union Square Farmers Market used to be held to like Stone Ave. So there's this like wide strip, it's painted green, and there were questions around, well, why didn't that get a bioswale? And are there potentials to have some self-watering planters put in there? And the self-watering planters, they've been, a lot of them have been community created, similar to the Washington Street triangle, those types of, you know, blue barrel planters. So that was the inquiry. I said I'd get to the bottom of it months ago, and I didn't. So does everyone know the area that I'm describing? Does it sound familiar?
Screen control, and I can share a map. That's easier.
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, you're great.
Yeah, so you're so much faster than me with these controls.
I'm used to it.
Okay.
Right. So
right. So
yeah.
you can't really see the new, how it's the new lane. I guess it's not really. I don't know how to share pictures because I snapped some pictures of it, but it's in front of the One Stop Mart, and kind of goes to, but yeah, exactly, all along that area. There is a bike lane, and then there's this, like, I don't know, 8-foot or so strip of just a greenery. So let's see. Yeah, you can't, it's not updated in this Google view. How do you send everyone pictures? I could send you pictures.
So could I ask, is the question like, who's in charge of the plan for greenery in Union Square, and where are we at? And can we get some, like, can we have input and maybe planters?
So I got answers to those questions.
Yeah.
I can also screen share the picture that Tori sent. So I'm going to take control while I'm talking and see if I can multitask. Basically, the area, it's khaki. It's a khaki colored pavement. Now, can you see this?
Oh yes, khaki. It wasn't green.
Can you see my picture now, or is it something else? Okay.
I see it. Yep.
So, so this area right now is just a buffer between the bike lane and the travel lane. There are discussions of what to do with that space moving forward with the larger Union Square redevelopment plan, the plaza, etc. plan. So, you know, at that point, planters or whatnot can definitely be considered for that space if there's community support for it. I think that this area may have some other recent needs. There's some discussion of putting like tables and chairs or something there from some of the abutting restaurants. So I'm not sure it's open for grabs, but I can definitely keep asking about that. But there just are a lot of departments who may already have plans for this, and I can only get so many answers in so many days.
Actually, could I piggyback on this to ask Breck a question? And I know that you are new with DPW, so I may be asking a lot here. There have been a few instances where I've been involved with projects that exactly like this, we weren't sure about the long-term usage. We would have hesitated to put like granite and trees in a spot and then potentially have to undo that, right? And what keeps coming up is the idea of really sturdy, probably concrete planters, potentially painted in some way that they don't look completely highway industrial, that could be forklifted or trucked in for a season or more. The other examples that I'm thinking of came up with the traffic safety work, where we all know that sometimes there's a spot that we know is dangerous, and we think that physical barriers and a little bit of beauty might slow people down. Is that a thing that is anywhere in the DPW radar?
If it is, it's not something that I'm aware of, but I like that concept. I don't know, Vanessa, if you have a better answer to that than I do. But I can't say it's something that I've encountered so far.
Okay, I think as a direction, just looking at that space, I think that physical barriers keep people safe. I love to see greenery wherever we can go, and we frequently have these multi-year periods where we plan very, very carefully before moving the granite and putting trees in, because those are hard to move. Something like that, and I think it probably does come out of DPW because it feels more heavy equipment-ish than the PSUF side. Also, it's a street rather than a park. What's the right path to sort of put some energy on that conversation, do you think?
Good question. I mean, it would fall under the highway department probably, right? Like,
so let me suggest this. Let's keep an agenda item just to remind ourselves and keep talking about it. And maybe that drives enough interest and energy, and maybe eventually we like the primary power of this committee is to create memos. Like we don't have a forklift.
yeah. The other thing that comes to mind is like I've seen very heavy cement planters, just sort of cement cylinders that could also serve the same purpose of protecting bicycle traffic and, you know, beautifying the area. That might be sort of easier to move and less of a commitment than trying to like fill in the cement slabs with soil. It's just a thought. I mean, we still need to figure out sort of who would orchestrate that.
We've gone kind of as far as the community can go with those blue plastic planters that were out by the overpass there. I feel like we need, and now that you're here and you're homed in DPW and the Highway Division, so maybe that's a conversation we could just keep having and see if we can use this space as a pilot for it down the road.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I can bring it up with Ben, who's doing the grounds. He probably, you know, if he's not the one that could orchestrate that, he can at least sort of give us an idea of the feasibility of it.
All right. Does that work for you, Tori?
That sounds really good. Love a good memo. And also just starting to think about it more. And Crystal, who happens to be one of the organizers for the Union Square redesign, I'm glad that they were here. They are here. Sort of, well, you might have seen a picture. Anyway, I'm just, thanks for letting me lift it up here. And yeah, just kind of getting that conversation started, sneaking in green space when we can, having it, be used as a protective, street calming and protection for bikes and humans. Okay, thanks for that info.
All right. So if we're good with that, go ahead.
Can I sort of tacked on, I'm just looking at the chat. Crystal had a question. Maybe I can address that now. She's asking, sorry, they're asking about sort of public areas. They are talking about hell strips, which I believe you mean like little parklet areas on the streetscape, and whose purview those would come under. It's a lot to think about while trying to talk to, but basically any public areas that are discussed during development are reviewed by the Public Space and Urban Forestry Division. So this particular one, I remember, has or is being reviewed. It's not usually me or Malik, but some of our counterparts in the public space side of things. So they are looking at that sort of thing, and they consider like how viable the areas are for public space, and also keeping in mind green space and improving the environment as well. So I believe that was considered. In general, like a developer has to meet certain requirements, but they're allowed to do things however they want to meet those requirements, and we confirm like on their private property that they're meeting the requirements, and we can encourage certain solutions, but we can't require them as long as they're meeting, the zoning regulations and whatnot. For public areas like a sidewalk, it's a little bit different, so we can tell them more what we need them to do, and we have to give them the sign off. Does that answer your question?
I can unmute. So just so that I'm sure I understand, if I have questions about the plan, I should take those questions to the developer because they're creating the plan and they're going to implement it and they're going to get approval from you? Or like...
Probably a good place to start, but if you have questions about what the city has agreed on or why, then you can reach out to the Public Space and Urban Forestry Division. You can always start with me and I can lead you to the right spot.
And I will add that if it's possible and it's close, to do it with direct conversation, that always is the least friction. If it's possible to talk to the developer and have a friendly back and forth, that works. If it comes to the point where and if they're doing by right zoning, then it does not go to the Zoning Board of Appeals because there's no appeal. But if it's far enough out that they're trying to do something outside of zoning and they need approval, one of the things this committee does is comment on, I think we're able to comment on anything that goes before a zoning review. So we like I say, we don't have any formal power there, but that's the point where people tend to listen if we get together and talk about it and we're all agreed. All right.
I don't know, I threw in the chat, the Watertown has created a hell strip planting guide for all residents. And I just threw it in the chat. I don't know if that's helpful, Crystal, if you can access that, but it's, got it? Cool, yeah.
All right. So if we're good with greening cement strips and or hell strips, let's go to city updates.
Just last note on that, I just
Yeah.
threw another link in the chat. for a mobile tree planter product. That could be something for the city. It is a large scale move with a forklift type situation, but I think there's probably a lot of options like that. But just to get a visual.
Right. Yeah, I love the brand name. They're called Love Tubs. Yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about. That would be super elegant and so much prettier and more useful than Jersey barriers, which was my initial suggestion for traffic safety. All right, so who now gives our updates on tree removals now that we have 3 city staffers here?
I passed it over to Breck.
I think that's me. So at this point, I'll just say we are hopefully about to execute a $50,000 contract for tree removals. So we haven't finalized the list quite yet, but we're looking at probably about 30 trees that have been deemed to be dead, dying, and hazardous. So we will, once that list is finalized, send that out to the committee.
All right, and is it still the case that we're short-staffed on the tree crew, and that's why we're contracting out?
That is the case, yes.
All right. And
Whole agenda item.
it is. Oh, okay, cool. I will save my question until it is answered later in the agenda. And is the list of those removals, is that the same spreadsheet we have been sharing, or is there a new list?
I'm assuming.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I think I've sent you some of them before because we were going to remove them, but weren't able to. But you'll get an update. Breck will send out an updated full list.
Okay, cool. Just to say out loud, the thing that keeps the thing that causes the most consternation out in the public is when the chainsaw crews show up by surprise. So anything we can do to give people a heads up, even if the thing has been dead for years, it is hard to tell in the winter and people forget. So the ability to put things out and let folks know really does help a lot with folks' experience of tree removal.
Yeah, we'll definitely go through the process of distributing letters and all that. So hopefully there won't be any surprises.
Thank you. So next up is our tree permit process.
That's still Malik.
That's Malik, all right.
So, yeah, I'm going to create a new sheet for the permits, but keep the list going straight on for exemptions for the time being. And then when it gets bigger, I'll probably separate that out so we can have yearly data. So for permits, I've issued 2 permits for 34 Laurel Street to take down a large specimen, and then a crabapple on 51 Church Street. I've received up to 8 permits for this year, and only those 2 have been issued and the rest are pending. The ones that are pending are 69 Berkeley Street for the removal of 2 poorly planted trees in a bad location. Homeowners thinking about replacing them. Then Barrett's going to remove 6 out of 7 trees at 31 Appleton Street. They're all undersized. And then there is 54 Farragut Avenue. They want to remove a pine tree at a driveway. And I still need to contact that homeowner, get details. 27 Dane Avenue wants to remove a cherry. 19 to 27 Allen Street is going to do a mixture of removals and plantings, and that would be development. And lastly, we have 21 Holyoke, who has a tree that's growing into the house's foundation. So that'll likely be a waiver. So there we have those. And we don't have a lot of exemptions from the year, which is quite surprising and quite good. So let me get to the list here.
Hey, Malik, when you mention the trees, would it be too much to say their caliper size as well?
Yeah, that data will be updated on the sheet, which I have yet to complete updating. But just to run through that, I just want to make sure all the data is like correct when it's on there. And sometimes the permit application information is incomplete. So when the permit's issued, that's when I'll have all the data or closer to pending. So there's that. For the exemption, I have more data. So here we go. So going from the last time I updated you on this would be 109 Beacon Street. I believe you heard from Mr. Estwing about his neighbor's trees and he wanted them removed, specifically that oak. The property of interest had a lot of invasive, and the details are 27, 8, 7, 10-inch diameter ailanthus trees, which were both invasive and hazardous. They're pretty much falling apart. 3 small Norway maples, saplings, and a dual leader buckthorn that's undersized and scraggly. So we have 21 Auburn, which is a dual leader of 13, 18 sycamore maple and in bad condition. And then we have 22 Madison, which I personally did a site visit on, which had clusters of small dead trees on a slope, and they're all undersized and need to be removed. I didn't go up and count the clusters, but I took photos and I placed it in there. A nice little Google link. So there you have it.
All right, thank you, Malik.
All right.
Yeah, and we've mentioned this sheet. This is a working document that the city staff used to collaborate and make sure that we get informed. That's, I think, Breck, you're the only new one. Have you gotten access to that?
I have access to the permit portal.
All right, cool. That's right. So it's just a working spreadsheet that we use to communicate back and forth so that, frankly, we don't have to take rapid notes as Malik reads things out. And so I can go back and look when somebody says there are people with chainsaws, was it done right? It's super, super helpful to be able to just go back to a spreadsheet and say, yep, that's a big old tree of heaven. That's got to come down. All right. Unless there's any more conversation around permits and exemptions, I'm interested in city tree planting.
That's me. Okay, so we are hoping to plant 175 trees this spring. We did release the invitation for bids and we're reviewing the bids that came back. I have some questions for the lowest bidder, so we're not really set on that contract yet. So still TBD, but hoping it will go well.
All right, 175 trees, got a little bit back, asking questions.
Yep.
All right. And then onward, I guess, to the Young Tree Training Program, unless we want to talk about tree planting anymore.
I assume the contract won't be public until you pick the bidder.
Yeah, I think you can see the invitation for bids is public, and the bids that came back is public, like the summary of the bids, I believe, is public as well.
Okay. All right, onward to the Young Tree Training Program and the PTHP, the Parks Tree Health Program. I think, Vanessa, that's probably you as well. And actually, to share, the reason why I put this on the agenda was that I have a neighbor who had concerns that the young maple planted in front of their house on Beacon was pruned and was leaking sap. And she was wondering if that was a healthy time to prune and who was doing it and what was going on. So I figured we would just talk about the Young Tree Training Program and find out what it is we're doing.
I'm gonna let Malik take the lead on this since he's the project manager of these projects.
All right. So the Somerville Young Tree Training Program was started in 2019 and is an initiative to prune about anywhere between 700 and 800 trees a year, to prune our young trees after their establishment period, which is approximately their 3rd year after being planted. And this program was designed to cycle through all the young trees in 3-year cycles, and just give them a nice healthy head start, to make sure they have proper growth habit and grow appropriately so that they cost less and have less detriments in the future. So with that said, certain species do look a little more dramatic when you are pruning them. So that may be concerning to some people. As far as the time of year, I believe we usually did this earlier. We usually start in around this time, actually around January, February, is consistent with what we've been doing. We've had some warm spurts, unseasonably warm weather, so that may attribute to your sap leaking. So I think it should be fine, because certain trees, they say it's best to prune in winter, and other trees is just before bud break, so
I'd say, just to add a little bit, generally speaking, this is a pretty ideal time to do the young tree training, because without the leaves on, you can really see the structure of the tree, so where to make the best cuts for the structure. And the maples may be leaking a little bit, but because spring is coming and they're sort of gathering resources to do bud break and whatnot, they're going to be able to seal those wounds really fast, and then divert the resources for best flowering and additional branch growth to the branches that are left. So yeah, this is.
I have gone ahead and shown a picture of a young tree that has recently been pruned and has sap leaking. And I'm just interested from all the tree professionals, this is okay?
Yep.
Right, everybody's nodding that this is eminently normal, a thing that happens in spring. Cool, I will carry that back to my neighbor. And thank you for the info on the training program, I think. And if we go through on a 3-year cycle like that, does that cover our planting? It seems at a glance like 800 is something like 300 times 3, give or take. So it seems like we're keeping up.
Yeah, this is the 3rd year of the program, so we've been going based off all the trees in the inventory that were categorized as young tree training. So some of them have grown out of it already, and we're adding more every year as we plant. So I think we'll be able to stick more or less to the 3-year cycle.
All right. I will just say that I notice, because I live on Beacon and or just off Beacon, and I pay attention to it, those trees, the lower growth was starting to show some damage from them being at like face level for both the bike path and pedestrians, and people were being rude to the trees, and now they're pruned up. And I don't think that's going to happen again this year. So I was overall pleased to see that. And I think it also answered it. It's kind of what I would imagine, back to our conversation about Prospect Hill, for example, in terms of looking at it looks well maintained, right? It combines having the trees present with having them be maintained. So I'm grateful that we have that program. All right. Anything else on YTTP or PTHP?
Do you want to talk a little bit about the Parks Tree Health? Just
Oh,
overview?
absolutely. So the Parks Tree Health Program was started the same year, 2019, and this is also the third iteration of that. And every year we cycle through a certain number of parks, and the hope was to get all the parks done in what, 6-7 years. Whether or not that's going to happen is neither here nor there, but we do prune the same amount of trees around each year. This year we're only getting 3 parks in because we have Kremen's Playground, Perkins Playground, and then the 5-acre monster known as Nathan Tufts Park. So that alone has been quite a heavy lift, as those trees haven't been touched in the last 7 years. And there's a lot of old growth trees over in that area. So it's a nice historic area, and the area needs a lot of maintenance in order for those to be properly kept up. So it's a large undertaking, that park was.
Malik, can you please repeat the first park that you mentioned? There's Perkins and the Nathan Tufts, and what's the third?
Kremen.
Thank you.
And so far, Kremen and Perkins are done this year. Nathan Tufts is about 2/3 done or so. They'll be finishing in April.
We'll finish up in mid to late April.
Is Kremen Park, is that dedicated to is that related to Diana Kremen?
I believe it is.
Okay. Just, she is someone who had been murdered, and I think it was a tragedy in Somerville, and so I'm glad there's something dedicated to her.
All right, same kind of question, and thank you for calling that out, Tori. It's good to talk about these names that just become names when they were important people. Same question. Are we able to keep up now, or is this a program that we should push to expand until it can actually keep pace with the number of parks we have?
We're definitely asking for more money every year. Some parks just take a lot more than we were hoping, guessing. So we sort of have a very rough estimate of how much tree work we think needs to happen, and then when we actually have someone go in and check it, the nitty-gritty details, there's always often a lot more that needs to be done. So we're going to continue expansion probably, I think, to keep up.
Yeah, I note that we are entering the pre-budget discussion season, which comes before the budget being proposed, and then the budget discussion season, which is basically a whole year when you take all of those. And so it seems to me like a really good place to invest, given that if we do this, our urban canopy lasts and is well tended, and if we don't, then we're back to saplings and whips. So let us be sure to surface if it turns out to be. I heard Nathan Tufts described as a 5-acre monster, so it seems like that might bear some investment. Also, old growth piqued my interest. All right, so onward to the tree crew. Rick, I believe this is you.
I actually got an answer.
Oh, okay.
Rex, you can answer if you prefer.
I really don't have anything to update at this point, unfortunately, but maybe
Yeah.
Vanessa.
Sure. So the basics are that we currently have no people on our tree crew, and there's an active union negotiation that's slowing the process down. So that's about all I have to report, but that is why we need contractors more than ever.
Okay, so for me, the last time I looked, the tree crew was a total of 4 human beings.
It's
Accurate?
three human beings.
Okay, 3 people, and one of those is a supervisor?
Yes. There's the like work, I don't remember what the classifications are, but some sort of like foreman in the field type position and 2 workers.
Okay, so we have 3 open job recs, and there are negotiations ongoing to get them filled.
Yes.
All right, that is good to know, and that's why we have contractors come through from time to time. And if I could ask Greg, the people who come around after a storm when a big limb drops, are those also contractors, or are those DPW people other than the tree crew?
So when a limb drops, generally speaking, it's the highway department that's taking those. Like because it's not really tree work, it's really just a question of limbs. We have people that can sort of clean up the mess in those situations. If it's something that requires more technical skill or climbing or a bucket truck, highway may be able to handle a little bit of that, but generally we do also have an emergency contract. So in an emergency storm response situation, we can call in Barrett as the contractor right now and take care of those situations.
Okay, that's good for me to know. I remember I was confused when I started looking at this about those 3 people and whether they were like full-time flat out or only on call or whatever. So what I heard was that there are some cleanup jobs that Highway is able to handle because you do still have the equipment, and you've got a contract with Barrett for when that great big thing splits and it's leaning on a power line. And when we go ahead.
Sorry, power lines are a special thing because that is very dangerous. So then we call Eversource in to deal with that. But
Okay, so we've actually got like 4 possible crews, one of whom doesn't exist right now. All right, I'm highlighting it just to basically say that this was something that confused me a lot when I started looking at city tree stuff. I was like, who are all these different people, and who is the person who is certain that the right tree is being removed? I feel like I have a better grasp of that now, but I like to just call it out as a complex place. All right. Anything else on city updates before we move on? Cool. So onward to the work of the committee. How is the Adopt a Tree program going?
We're moving forward. We met recently and we have a schedule of events. So this working group is myself and Connor, Leah, and Amy. And just a couple of weeks ago, Althea and Vanessa were able to get the maps over to Amy and a spreadsheet with all of the trees that will need tagging. So we now do have all of the wards mapped out where we will need to hang tags for the Adopt a Tree. And so that's where we're at now. And Connor will be coordinating these this tagging effort. And I think to that end, since he's not here, what we'd like to do today is to get folks, all of you, to help volunteer to get these tags hung like we've done in the past. We've typically divided it up by ward. And right now we've got the 7 wards, and Ward 3 is actually subdivided into 3 sections because there are so many trees there that need to be tagged. So we will be looking for volunteers to help us do that. And I know Murphy's not here, but I think she said she would help and maybe get a friend or 2 who's interested in the tree work that we do to help her. And then down the line, Leah will be working on getting together emails to send to folks who are adopting trees. And then we also, by the end of April, we'll be having some communication between, or maybe depending on when we have Arbor Day or no, I take that back, when the adopt a tree, when we get it completed, which I hope will be by the end of April, right, Leah and Amy? That we will be in some communication also with forms through MailChimp, like just that Althea had done in the past. So I think we're on track to get these things hung by the end of April and have our communication with the adopters.
These trees that are being adopted, are they from last fall's planting? Or are they
Last
just
fall and
All
last spring.
Yeah, all year.
last spring? Oh, okay, because we had to pause the program. I'm
No, that's
guessing.
what we've
No,
always
that's,
done.
Okay, okay. Is there, I couldn't find it online. I was trying to, because I remembered I adopted a tree and then I couldn't remember which one. And is there a place like on the website that we have it? Because I couldn't find it yet.
not that I
Anyone's
know of. I could check not that I know of, Tori, but I can check the mailing list and see
Yeah,
when you filled out the form, I can check and see what that address is. I'll make a note of that.
yeah. I don't know if that's a real heavy lift to get it on the Urban Forestry Committee's website, what that would look like. I don't want to make more work for you, Vanessa, or Malik or Breck.
I think we
That'd be
also
cool.
have to think about if there's any privacy issues with that, with posting everybody who had signed up, because that's, we didn't say when they signed up that information would be public, so that might also
Yeah.
just be something to think about.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe we could put a map of all the trees up for adoption and like mark whether or not they've been adopted without all the details of who. I don't know if that's useful though.
That could be useful. The rest of the data is just probably too much. It's so much data
Right,
that it would just, could take a lot of space. But yeah, there's the privacy issue for sure.
Also, would it be like just for last year, or do like last year and the year before's adoptions count? Like how many trees would we want to show?
It depends. That would depend on who we get back for continuing to caring for these trees. And I'm not sure if that's a sustainable thing to do over the years. We could maybe just have, if we were to do something like that, I would maybe suggest having just the current year's adoptees. But then that would mean changing it each year too. So I don't know what that would entail and who would be able to do that.
I have a question, and I don't want to cause any tree jealousy here, but do you know if there was any tree that was adopted by more than one family?
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
There are.
The
Yeah.
more loved trees in our adopt a tree program.
Yeah,
I
there
encourage,
are.
like, that's
And
a good.
I don't, oh, sorry.
No, I was going to say that's a good thing. We're getting more people, more eyes and hands in the game. Let's kick it around. My instinct is to not try to look too far backwards, because we weren't thinking about privacy when we started making those lists. And we should always tell people ahead of time. And one of the things that I love most about this program is that people get to name their trees, and they name them the most adorable things. And I feel like sharing that could just be a lighthearted bit. But yeah, let's think about what's useful to share. I mean, Tori asked for a lookup. We can give her that for free. If there's something useful that we can get out of it publicity-wise, I feel like this could be one of those like self-sustaining virtuous cycle things that draws people to our website, and they might notice that we've got like a species guide and a planting guide and stuff like that too.
Yeah, one of the things, we can include that, Chris, when we talk about that at some of our outreach events, we tell people about that, but it might be worth having something actually in writing. And maybe, Leah, this is something that we could include in our emails to people You know, you can name your tree, tell your neighbor, it's really fun, you know, to try to get some word out that way. Maybe we can incorporate some of that language into our communications. It's a really good idea.
It would be valuable for us too, just to see where, you know, what areas of the city we're getting more adoptions in and what areas might be more neglected, just in terms of, you know, how our outreach is going and who we're reaching out to and what areas, you know, we're doing a better job, what areas we're not doing such a good job. So that could be useful for us too, to see that kind of those sort of mapped out.
Okay, so it sounds like we've got work for the Adopt a Tree Committee to do. And then when are we thinking that runs? When are we going to print and hang stuff?
By the end of April.
Okay, cool. And you're going to want volunteers per ward?
Yes, and maybe I could just, would it be worth sending an email? We wouldn't have to respond or confer, but I could just ask people to sign up for a ward. We'll have 9 sections. And just, you know, Chris, you can take ward 2 or whatever, you know, just to sign up, and we can share where there's some overlap too. That's what we've done in the past. It's worked pretty well. Does that seem like a reasonable way to approach that?
It does. We try to be very careful about open meeting law around here, but I think an email and a sign up and grabbing some signs for Adopt a Tree seems totally reasonable. All right, anything else on that? Crystal is asking in the chat about the idea of adoption ceremonies and potentially certificates and other, you know, making it even more fun and potentially meaningful. My initial reaction is, I was going to say, my initial reaction is that it's an entirely volunteer effort, and I would turn that around and, like, I don't know, is the Adopt a Tree program open to non-committee members, like as an organizer?
Yeah, why not? Yeah. All
right. So I think there's an opening. I think the committee members may be at capacity without figuring out adoption ceremonies and certificates, but I mean, open to it. Right.
Maybe that's something too, when we send out information for adopting, that, you know, it's a growing committee and always looking for it, you know, creative individuals, you know, always looking for help. So
actually, yeah, that's a really good idea. That was one of the core ideas that Althea had when she started this thing, was to nucleate a list of people in the community who are willing to at least put their name on a Google sheet and say, yes, I will keep an eye on and potentially water that young tree. And that's where we start with an engaged citizenry. So yeah, let's see if we can light them up a little.
So yeah, maybe we can get a little cohort to help. You know, we could send a certificate or something like that. You know, if somebody's willing to join us and do that, then, you know, more than welcome.
All right.
We're also ordering some ground cover vegetation plants for, in addition to our trial tree pits. And the idea was that people who adopted the new tree pits would be able to do some planting. So we don't have to get that language in for April necessarily, but if there were expanded cohorts of people who would be interested in doing, you know, carrying out that's kind of a next step in the adoption process.
We do.
Thanks,
that is
guys.
Still not 100% yet, because we do have to make sure the city council will approve funding for that. But it is a hope.
Okay, well, here's hoping.
All right. Are we good with Adopt a Tree? All right, let's move on to our Respecting Our Oldest Trees collaboration, the root to collaboration. Who will speak to?
I can do that. Just one thing, and then we could probably remove this from the outreach or from the working group. But Carrie Kemperman and I are going to get the banner out of storage and hang it up at Trum Field in April. And I'll be in touch with the root group to set up a schedule for where we might want to move it over the course of the next several months. Get ideas. If the UFC has some ideas about places we can hang it, I'm open to hearing that. But we haven't gotten a lot of activity on the walking map that is associated with this. So maybe we can generate some interest when we rehang it. You know, spring is coming. If somebody walks by, they can scan the QR code, they can fill out a tree to nominate, and we put the nominated tree on a walking map. You know, maybe we can generate some renewed interest this spring because everybody's happy in the spring. But yeah, so it will start out at Trum Field. The places it was at last year, if you want to think about where we can hang it, we had it at Lincoln Park, we had it up at Prospect Hill Park, and Foss Park. So we've hit those parks. We're trying to get it moved around the city to hit different locations. So open to areas with a chain link fence that's on city property that we have permission to hang this thing. But otherwise, the root collaboration has kind of has been at a little bit of a standstill.
Okay, is that the kind of thing that we could, and assuming there's energy to continue it, and we just like warm it back into a little fire, is that the kind of thing where we could maybe generate some interest by soliciting the next round of meaningful pictures or something? Like, would there be interest?
Yes, that's something we'd have to run by the actual root folks, who are the photographers and the artists who initiated the program.
Okay.
But that's certainly something we can bring up with them. Maybe I'll do that. I'll try to set up a meeting. I'll set up a meeting with them and can report back as soon as we can meet and bring anything new to the committee.
Okay, yeah, I mean, and I don't want to just sit here and make work for other people, but I thought that was an amazing emergent thing from our community where there was like an art collaboration and it turned into a banner that moves around and showcases, you know, our oldest trees, and it was a neat bit of synergy. And if by asking the question we could rekindle it, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a really cool installation, and it doesn't hurt to reach out to the root group and say, hey, you know what? Where do they see the next steps going? Because they're the ones who kind of initiated this interaction, and be interesting to hear what they have to say. So we can certainly pursue that and see where it goes.
Cool. All right. Unless there's more en route, there is the placeholder we have for outreach after that.
I guess the only bit of outreach that I have, Amy and I had spearheaded the Arbor Day poster contest again this year, and I'm very sorry and saddened and disappointed to report that we did not get any entries for this, whereas last year it was a pretty exciting time. So either the kids are busy doing other things, there are some other concurrent activities that for the Mystic River Watershed Association and a couple of other groups also had similar sorts of activities centered around springtime, essay writing and poster contests and the like. So it's possible that there's just kind of an overload on the teachers. Whether or not some of the teachers chose to do this on their own and send them to the DCR on their own is unknown to us, but we did not receive any entries for it, which was too bad. So perhaps next year we will just forward the information and sort of let them pick it up from there, but not try to coordinate with them as we did during the pandemic times.
I suspect you hit it on the head with there's a lot going on, especially for teachers right now.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else under the broad heading of outreach? Not just Jennifer, but anybody at all? Yes.
If it's okay, I do have one more thing.
Oh, sure.
We had a working group for some outreach signs. We were able to distribute several of the Leave the Leaves signs around little pilot areas in the fall, in different locations around the city. But it just occurred to me, Vanessa, I was wondering if you'd heard any feedback from the city on the other the other sign, which was for the tree protection, not locking the bikes to trees and not, nailing things to trees and things like that. Any news on that?
No, I haven't followed through. I think the last feedback I remember was like, maybe this isn't the right way to get the trees protected by having more visual clutter, and I haven't moved forward since then. I think it would be worth exploring if there's other non-sign methods of getting the word out. I know we talked about like reaching out to the bike committee. Maybe it's called the Bike and Pedestrian Other People Committee now. I think we'd also discussed maybe like having some real estate on a mailer that goes out to the community. Not sure how to even start exploring that option. So maybe just some like quick intros to other committees who can get the word out would be a good starting place.
Okay, well, that's a little disappointing because I guess I understand that we have a lot of signs around, but I still would like to prioritize some signage for tree protection, as well as some of the other things that we have around the city. So I guess I'm disappointed to hear that.
If there's like specific, I think you'd mentioned before, specific areas where you think they'd really make a big impact, if you can send those to me, I'll bring it back.
Oh yeah, I did. I'll try to dig that up. I forget now what I had thought, but I'll try to dig that up and resend that. Yeah.
Okay, maybe there's some limited areas we can do some signs.
Yeah, actually, it would be, and I'm thinking back to at least 4 years ago when we didn't have an answer to this. There is, I'm thinking actually of on Beacon Street over near the Thirsty Scholar, there's somebody who clearly moved in and just started locking their bike to a young tree. And I would love it if that person in particular could find out, right? And even if we didn't have sort of a broad distribution, to be able to try and, hang one sort of clearly visible at the exit from the building saying, hello, this is a thing, this is not the thing we do here. I feel like that would help tactically.
Sounds like a pilot.
Maybe we can
like
And I mean, you know me, if I see a person, I will walk up and say, hey, I'm Chris, I like trees. That's not really what we do here, but some sort of structured way to have it be clearly from the city and informative as well. I think that would be great.
Maybe instead of them being like lawn signs, they could be like friendly tickets is the best way I can think of to describe it. Like a little tag we put on an actual bike that's actually locked to a tree, and we can like, everyone in the UFC can have a little pile of them as they're wandering around the city if they see one, and just like put the tag on the bike itself. And that's, not then taking up visual clutter for other folks, but would perhaps make the impact in the way that we actually need.
It's a little bit playful, it's a little bit fun, but it's also like, hey, this is about you particularly.
Yeah, a little tap. Yeah.
All right. I have to imagine there's some approving authority for something like that. All right. I will leave it with, we can leave it with you, Vanessa, to go figure out if that.
Okay.
If that we can even consider.
I will start the conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Great. Other outreach. I would note under the heading of outreach that while Crystal was here, she live tweeted our meeting. Or they live. So I think that's something of a first for our little committee. So that's we're on Twitter now. All right, onward to tree species selection and planting standards. I think Amy, are you representing this? No? Is that Leah?
I think that's Leah. Do you mind
All right.
me throwing it to you, Leah?
Yeah, so yeah, I can report that we have put together a budget proposal for our small diameter native street tree pilot program. And I think from what my understanding is that we're currently reaching out to nurseries to make sure all of the trees and species that we're requesting are actually will be available for this year. And then we have to formally submit it so that our proposal is approved. So we have money to buy these plants, and then we'll be able to buy the plants and install them. And I think what we'll need from you all is some support, you know, assuming this all goes well and we get funding and we get our plants, we'll need some volunteers to help with installation day. And then we also need to, I think we're going to work collaboratively with Vanessa to determine what tree pits we're going to use. And we'll be doing 6, right? This year? 4. Either 4 or 6, depending on, wait, let's see. No, yeah, so we have definitely 4 and possibly 6 tree pits, depending on what's available for tree pits and then budget as well. So, but yeah, I think we put together a really exciting proposal for species, which I don't know how much we want to share right now considering time, but our top 4 species, I'll just say, were swamp white oak, American linden, musclewood, which is Carpinus caroliniana, and American hornbeam, which is Ostraya virginiana. So those 4 species we were really excited about trying. Some that we know work well in the city, and so we're going to try if they're, you know, a smaller caliper tree will flourish, and then try some new species as well, and then put together a really exciting list of about a dozen species of ground cover that will mix in the base, and then put together some non-plant items that would be protecting both the small tree and a nice rope that will be staked around the tree pit to give it a little bit of attention and make sure people don't trample on it. So I think that's the sort of high level update, and hopefully we'll be able to put it before the budget approving powers soon. Sorry, anything to add, or Vanessa?
I just want to, well, Vanessa, I want to appreciate you in this because, you know, you're instrumental in, and will be instrumental in making this happen. And, you know, and I really want to appreciate Leah and Connor because, you know, it was a dream for a long time. And, you know, you need more brains and inspiration on something than just like a dream, and just like, you know, it's a project that is, you know, being put forth collaboratively and wouldn't have happened without without any of us. And it just kind of, for me, it's like really speaks to the power and the amazing things you do when you work together. And it's just for me, this is a dream come true that, you know, I was dreaming, but you know, some people have all the tools to execute, but I don't. I have some tools, but it was just really impressive how it's being brought to the finish line, and I'm just full of gratitude, and really excited to see if it works. You know, that's and hopefully it will. We'll see. So, thank you.
Yeah, seconding that. It takes a long time to grow a tree committee, but I think that ours is starting to really show signs of maturity. Like all this, it's easy to forget. I had a chance recently to reflect on where I started in this journey. We have come a long way in 3 years. Like from it was just Vanessa, and now we've got 3 city staffers and us and an adopt tree program and an art collaboration, and we're going to have this and that, and we're doing experiments with our less used tree pits. I mean, it's kind of amazing.
Mhm.
All right.
I have just a quick question for Leah. I think I only got, you said 4 species, but I only got 3. Could you please repeat those, the tree
Oh, yeah.
species, if you would?
Yep. Yeah, swamp white oak, American linden, musclewood, and American hornbeam.
Okay. Thank you very much.
If I could add, we have a couple backup species. If we ended up doing 6, and
Yeah, we
correct me
have.
if I'm wrong, do you know which those ones are?
Yeah, we have pin oak and gray birch as our
Gray birch.
backup. If those first ones aren't available, and then we have a 3rd tier of backup, but we won't clutter the minutes for today. And then we might have some potentially transplanted shagbark hickory, though we're cautious about transplanting shagbark hickory. So
Yeah.
and then we'll have everyone here. Vanessa, do we need brainstorming power for what tree pit are contenders in this, or is that I think you were going to research what's available and then we'll decide where it'll be.
Yeah, I think we don't need brainstorming power yet. Malik and I are gonna do our planting site check thing and identify some plots, plots that might work. And if there's like a bunch to choose from, then I'll reach out. But if there's only a few that fit the necessary criteria, then we'll just use those.
Awesome, that sounds good.
Hopefully we'll have some answers on that next week.
Great.
All right. The last substantive item on our agenda is going to be real short. That's the tree preservation ordinance. The news on this is that the administration proposed an amendment to give the tree warden and the deputy tree wardens enforcement authority for infractions of the tree preservation ordinance. And the Legislative Matters Committee met yesterday, and that there was going to be a pause where they were going to bring in and talk about it. And the committee said, well, this seems really, really simple and sensible, especially since ISD is really quite burdened with all of their responsibilities. And so that approved unanimously out of committee. And next Thursday, it seems likely to pass city council. So that will be a new power to our tree warden and deputies. So that's cool. I had said that I would host meetings about updates to the tree preservation ordinance, and I have not done that. So I'm going to schedule something on that front prior to our next meeting. And Vanessa, you were certainly in. I forget who else was in from this group. I'm sure it's in the minutes. Okay, it was Tori and Jennifer. Cool. We'll get together. Go ahead.
I wonder if Breck might be interested in joining as well. He has some good ideas.
I'd step back.
4, 5.
I would step back.
5. So 5 is good, 6 is no good. 6 is a meeting of the whole committee. All right, and I would just say, go ahead.
I just wanted to know where the administration got this idea, and if you had a hand in it.
Me and Malik,
It was
one
you,
of us. I
Pete.
can't even remember.
Okay.
I think.
Gosh,
What
we
did you think? Yeah.
got some good brains here. Got our own little brain trust going on.
Yeah. We've been trying to make sure that the ordinance is complied with, and since it wasn't specified in detail, like who does it and how much it is, it comes under this like blanket window, and this just really solidifies the amount where we can charge per day when people aren't following the rules and who can do it. So it seemed like a pretty easy change, and I guess the council agreed.
I mean, if you're gonna have
Bravo.
if you're gonna have a title like tree warden, you ought to be able to enforce the ordinance.
I'm just waiting for my badge.
Oh, that's a contentious one around here. I don't know if you heard the story about the city councilors getting badges and there being confusion there, and now they don't get the badges anymore.
Got it.
It was
heard
a
about that.
all right. So I didn't actually see, do we actually have the February minutes to approve?
No, I didn't get them sent out. I just got them today and didn't have time to do my thing. So next month.
All good. Well, we are at the end of the agenda. Is there anything else that we should hit briefly before we close out? All right.
I
Go
don't,
ahead.
can we, so I'm meeting with Jonathan Espling tomorrow, and we can just have that as a, if anything comes of it, we can talk about it next meeting. Chris, I don't know if you were there for that. There was a large, I can speak to it offline since it isn't on the agenda, but he's someone who's concerned about the trees. Malik mentioned it. There's a lot of invasive trees in between his property and his neighbor's property, and he's worried about them. So he had lots of anxiety about it. I said I'd meet with him, and so we're meeting tomorrow, and I'll report back next month.
All right.
And if there's anything pressing, I might need to reach out to you, Chris, or Vanessa.
All right. That's good of you. That's really generous. All right. I would entertain a motion to close this meeting. I will take lifting it up from Tori as the motion.
I so move.
Excellent.
Second.
Excellent. I do not believe that we need a roll call for that. So I believe that this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all so much for a great way to close out a Thursday afternoon.
Thanks. Bye,
Thank
all.
you, wonderful
Bye.
people.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Great meeting.
Good evening.